Welcome to Methods Unsound presents Moving On, a 5-part mini-series on the films we used to love that now make us cringe. My name is Christopher Ratcliffe, one of the founders and writers of Methods Unsound, an increasingly less dormant pop culture website that we're breathing into life for this period of extended quarantine. Joining me from the comfort of their own homes via the wonders of modern technology are 4 other members of the Methods Unsound team. Let me introduce them all to you one by one. First, we have Matt Owen. Matt, how are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well too, thank you.
You okay?
Anything
You sure?
I think under
You
the circumstances,
hesitated there, and I worried that
I feel like we both hesitated. To be fair,
something terrible has happened.
should we just like can the podcast and just have an in-depth chat about how we're coping?
about the sense of impending doom?
Number one, I mean, I know that you've watched Robot Jocks in the last 7 days.
I have,
so
and it was amazing.
So you're living your best life, so that's good. Is there anything else that you can recommend for our listeners?
My wife has been binging Harlots recently, and I've been catching like various parts of it, and it's quite good fun. It's go get 'em two-fisted 17th century prostitutes in London, and it's full of rumpy pumpy and gorgeous costume design. So yeah, give it a go. If you like rumpy pumpy or costume.
Matt, one of my very favourite things about you is how you sort of sound like a seaside postcard from the 1970s when you describe anything. And that also seems to be primarily what you watch.
I am reading Big Uns magazine as we speak. So just to.
Oh, bless you. Catherine, how are you doing?
Hi, I'm well, thanks. Doing
Cool.
good. I mean, I want to ask you, but I feel like you won't get asked every time you have to introduce someone. But
yeah, I have to change my answer every single time, and it's always going to be the same. Yeah, all right, Can you recommend us anything that you've been watching this week?
I really, honestly, back deep in comforting watching this week, I haven't watched anything new. The only new thing I've been watching is the man is the guy from
that was
Scribbling.
the loudest scribbling
from
ever.
the song Stan in the background.
I think that was me. There's like a little bit of like sauce or something stuck on my laptop next to the trackpad, and I think I was trying to pick it off.
Oh, Catherine's talking. I'll take this opportunity to clean the ketchup off my laptop.
Sorry. I didn't think it would be overheard, but clearly
Get
it
a
was.
table tray, Matt. Don't use a laptop.
Honestly, it sounded exactly like that Stan song by Eminem with the guy in the background writing the letters.
Yeah.
The tea's gone cold, I don't know.
So between us, Catherine and I are clearly better at hip hop than Eminem will ever be, right?
That's
what we've decided.
Quite the pair.
I don't disagree with that.
I've
Okay, so what have you been comfort watching, Catherine?
Oh no, we've just been abusing our Disney Plus subscription, rewatching some Marvel films, and I have started The Mandalorian, but I realise I'm quite far behind on that, so I won't bother giving any opinions as I've only watched 2 episodes. But good so far.
Yeah, adored it and have just watched 2 episodes, so don't worry, you're probably not that far behind.
Cool.
Joachim, hello, how are you?
Hello. Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Pretty good.
Is there anything you've been enjoying since we last spoke?
So I took a recommendation from a fellow panelist on this podcast, which was Catherine a couple of weeks ago, talked about Feel Good, which is a channel for comedy drama. And I watched it all over the weekend, and it is fantastic. It's really good. Really,
cool.
Really into it.
It properly made me cry laugh at one point, which is
yeah, there was lots of tears and lots of laughing as well. Yeah. It was great. Thoroughly recommend that.
Oh, awesome. And finally, we have Ted Wilkes.
Hello, I'm well. I've I've been watching Birds of Prey and the Fabulous Emancipation of Harley Quinn, or Harley Quinn, the Fabulous Emancipation of Her, and Birds of Prey, or
Good. I
however
wouldn't have
it's
known
titled
what you
now.
were talking
Mhm.
about.
And yeah, that's all right. It's fun, obviously, watching it in comparison with this week's film that we've been tasked with viewing, and how DC have kind of evolved. And I kind of watched it as well because I'm interested in MacGuffins at the moment. And there's a scene where they realize that you don't care about the MacGuffin enough in this film, so they get someone to swallow it, and then that immediately makes you care about it. But on the other end of things as well, I've been watching Gangs of London. I don't know if anyone's seen that.
No, I've seen a lot
Oh,
of
no.
trailers for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all over the gaff. It's Gareth Edmonds. He did The Raid,
Yeah.
the kung fu movie where they got the tower. Yeah, and the action scenes are amazing. The story is a bit, but he really makes up for it in the action sequences.
In this mini podcast series, which we've subtitled Moving On, the team will take it in turns to pick a film they used to love for a brief period of time, but they've now grown out of. The other guests will then pick an element of the film they find interesting, shameful, or weird, and basically make the person who picked the film hate themselves for bringing it to everyone's attention again. Then at the end, we'll try to pick one thing each that we like about the film, and we'll rate it out of 10 and definitively conclude whether there's anything redeemable in there or whether it should follow the career path of Chris O'Donnell, who shone so brightly for such a short space of time. But when you tell people he's now the star of NCIS spin off, they can only reply, "Really? Chris O'Donnell? Wait, which one is Chris O'Donnell? And hang on, what is NCIS?" This week, it's Catherine's turn to pick the film. Catherine, would you like to introduce your film and explain why you liked it at the time and why you too have gone through a conscious uncoupling?
All right, so I chose 1995's Batman Forever, third major Batman film in the series of that time. Lost out on a Saturn Award for Best Fantasy Film to Babe, so that kind of puts in perspective where we land with this film. And I guess my only real excuse for loving this film was I was 8 years old when it came out, and it was really fun and full of Batman-y stuff that I loved, and it was really felt really comic booky. But now I realise it's horrible. I'm sorry.
We'll just end there, yeah.
Next week.
Next week.
I did actually. I took some notes when I was watching it, and I was just reading back of them, and the notes go. Well, I'll just give you like the first half page of notes, which is first line sandwiches, neon landscape, dialogue terrible, best Batmobile, grappling hook, lol, bat belt. What is Tommy Lee Jones doing? That's the first half page of notes I have. So
Yeah. All right, let's start with the Batmobile.
Oh,
I thought it was awful.
I thought that's the worst Batmobile.
Yeah.
ever since I was a kid, this was my favourite Batmobile, and I kind of stand by it. I do still like it, but
Do
one
you not
interesting
think it
fact-
looks a bit like a shoe?
No, I love it. I stand by it. I love it. I think it's really kitschy and stupid. And I was just to say before you carry on, Christopher, and tell me your opinion.
No,
of the
please.
Batmobile, that one of the interesting facts I read was that H.R. Geiger actually designed a Batmobile for this movie originally, but they decided it was like too scary and weird looking for the kind of family fun audience that they were going for this film, so that's why they reverted back to this one.
It's still pretty out there, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think I wrote a similar note, and I said, well, not a similar note, but one of my first notes is about the Batmobile, and I went, I hate it. I think it's so overly designed. But I will say, I prefer it to the one in the Christopher Nolan's film, which is just boring and looks like a weaponized fucking shoebox. It's awful. Yeah.
The whole thing of Batman is he's supposed to, like, incite this fear, really theatrical thing, and he should have a really stupid, cool Batmobile, which he does. So shut up, all of you. But you can all tell me your.
Did you find a picture of H.R. Giger's design for it?
Yes, I did.
Was it a giant penis?
It looks kind of crabby, is how I would describe it, or
Okay.
kind of sea animal-y, maybe squiddy even.
Good old
Yeah,
HR Giga sticking to the
yeah.
remit. It's a bat. It's a flying
Like
bat.
a double
Having a
penis.
look, it's got like two
Yeah.
front parts, hasn't it? Like double
Double
penis.
penis, yeah.
It's like
Yeah,
Which is
it's
kind
pretty
of fitting
radical, isn't it,
for
that?
Batman. Yeah.
yeah. To go
It's
with
like-
his twin nipples in this one.
Yes.
But singular butt cheek.
Yeah. One meat and two veg. Or no, maybe the other way
One
around.
veg and
Whatever.
two meat. Like, yeah.
I'd actually.
Wow, someone built one out of Lego.
I was really saddened because I watched the first 10 minutes and I remembered the butt bit and I was like, that bit's so stupid. I'm sure it's from Batman and Robin because it looks so stupid. And it doesn't come up in the first few minutes when you see the bat suit. And I was like, yes, I was right. This really stupid flashing of a jiggling butt is not in the movie I love. And then he's right there at the end. And it was in this movie. And I was so sad about it.
I also did a similar thing where I thought the costume didn't get nipples until Batman and Robin, but I was wrong. No, they're there in Batman Forever.
Batman Forever takes full credit for that terrible costume choice.
All right. Well, now that we've thoroughly discussed the Batmobile,
we move on to the Batboat.
Is it? Yeah. I don't think I saw the Batboat, but I did see the Batwing in there.
What?
The Batboat's in there for what, about 15 seconds or something?
And then it gets blown up. Yeah.
It's quite a big scene. It's like, some of the terrible dialogue is really brought to light by that bit where they're like, by air or by sea.
They have to get out to the holy rusty metal island, don't they, at the end, and they take the Batboat.
So we can, maybe if anyone has anything to pick about the design, that'd be quite a good place to start, because there's some bits of it that I still quite like the funeral scene with where he's sort of remembering stuff and the bat coming through and the pages running. I'm like, it looks quite comic booky, and I know why I liked it at the time, but then I look at the fucking TV top thing, who designed that and why?
Yeah.
Literally, it was like they were sitting in their kitchen and they saw a food processor and was like, yeah, but what if it had wings and was green?
Oh, my wife came in and said, "Is that a blender?" Yeah, exactly what she said.
And just some of it's really bad.
I was reading, kind of reading up on it, and I read that Joel Schumacher took some notes from there's a famous Batman artist called Dick Sprang, who was one of the classic artists, and it's like if you go and have a look at his artwork, you can definitely see the influence. It's quite pantomime in the way that sort of Dick Tracy villains are. So overly designed, and you can kind of but also with sharp spiky edges and things, and you can you can definitely see it. But the production design's amazing. But
I think the production design and the art direction is the saving grace of it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I like the boldness. I like the colors. I like how
the neon,
how extravagant it looks. Yeah,
I think that's what I remember liking and still like now. I think the major letdown for the look of it is just that it's coming that time when CGI was just starting to be used, which makes it look a lot worse in some ways than the model work you had on Batman and Batman Returns. But I still like the silly look, the bold look to it. I think it stands.
I mean, I think what's interesting as well is that it's kind of even with the harsh contrast lighting, it's trying super hard to be this noir, this kind of superhero noir film, and I think you can kind of see the influence that Nolan takes, where he takes it a lot darker in the end. But this is still kind of clinging on to the fun, campy Batman that used to be, and it's yet to fully embrace the darkness of Batman.
I mean, I don't know if this is so black and white, but each sort of version of Batman that's come and gone in the last sort of 30 years has been a contrast on the previous one. These are so much more out there and garish than the Keaton ones, and then the Christopher Nolan ones are definitely a reaction away from the Schumacher ones. And
design wise, I feel like it's a transition film, because Schumacher's definitely come in and said, right, I mean, the film company has said we need to sell more lunchboxes, so we need a kids film. But he hasn't just gone. He could have easily just gone, right, I'm just going to go back to 60s Batman camp, pow, kind of wallop kind of stuff. But he's kind of decided to like transition from Tim Burton's one by adding more colour and neon, rather than just going, forget it, let's do something else,
He holds on to a lot of the looks, doesn't he, of like the city and the ironwrought gates and like stuff like that. That's all sort of straight out of the Burton vision. But like you say, then it's sort of like a weird. At first, I was like, it's a transition. It's a middle ground between like the camp and the whatever. But then it sort of swings back the other way, doesn't it, with Nolan?
I think I was, and I think you're absolutely right, and that's because Burton still has a hand in it, and he was attached to it till quite late. But like, I think I was looking forward to this one more so than any of the others that we've covered. I thought that, oh, you know what, I definitely hated it at the time, and when I watched it in the cinema, it was such a disappointment. But I did think that, well, okay, the time's passed, and I'm more, maybe it's quite a nice, fun, so bad it's good, like camp classic. But it's just not. It's just really boring. I was so bored during a lot of it, and that was really disappointing. And I guess, I mean, I'll put my hand up and say I haven't seen Batman and Robin because this was so bad.
It's a shame that you haven't seen it, actually, because I think it would make Batman Forever look really good.
Yeah, well,
yeah,
I get.
I think
get
I've
that
been
impression.
saying that as a line to friends for 20 years, which is like, it's not as bad as Batman and Robin. It's like coming out of my mouth so many times.
Is that the one with Schwarzenegger in it?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like every
Yeah,
other
yeah,
sentence is a pun, and
Yeah.
Schwarzenegger is basically the star. And
Nice to see you.
I mean, it's
George
funny, isn't it?
Clooney is
Because one of my questions was, is this the time when they started having too many villains? Because one of the major problems with this, I think, is that you definitely don't need the Riddler and Two-Face. And I actually quite enjoy watching Jim Carrey just probably be the only person that's having any fun on this movie and just being Jim Carrey. And I hated like the Tommy Lee Jones aspect of it, but then it keeps getting more. That does seem to be a theme in Batman. Too many villains, basically.
But Batman. There's a challenge. Kill the bat! Sounds like a good idea. But have you thought it through? A few bullets, a quick splash of blood, and then what? Wet hands. Post-homicidal depression. Why not humiliate him first? Expose his frailties. And then when he is at his weakest, crush him! I see that sparkle in your left eye. I can help you get Batman.
There's a whole sort of story, isn't there, that Tommy Lee Jones hated Jim Carrey and was quite rude to him, and maybe it's just because like Tommy Lee Jones is like chewing scenery, but not as much as Jim Carrey is, and can't quite compete, and got really angry about it.
I mean, Jim Carrey does seem like the kind of person, if you're acting next to him, you'd want to pummel him to death, doesn't he?
Especially if you're Tommy Lee Jones and you're a serious, well-respected actor, and then you're being acted out of the fucking film by Jim Carrey, who at the time was sort of like, well, he'd done like 2 or 3 really massive money-making comedies, and then like, yeah, he's obviously the golden boy. And there he is, just having to play second fiddle. And you can see that in his performance. He's so seething, having to like really overact through all of his stuff.
Yeah, one of the worst bits in it, I think. I really didn't enjoy watching him.
He really is,
in retrospect. Whereas I didn't mind watching Jim Carrey do Riddlery stuff.
I was about to say, if we're talking about bad performances, front and centre, Val Kilmer. I mean, now come on. Like, I mean, does he emote at any point in this film, or
there's something oddly right? Okay, so going into this, if you were to, I think I said this to Catherine already. Like, if you were to ask me to name all of the Batman actors, I guarantee I would have forgotten to put Val Kilmer. I completely forgot he was in it. And actually, yeah, he's dreadful, but also there is something oddly likable.
Yeah,
I can't put my finger on what it is.
I found him a lot less annoying than Nicole Kidman, who I really, and I think coming off the back of like the 2 other incredible women in Batman films previous to this, and then you just get saddled with this like wet blanket of Nicole Kidman. Normally I like Nicole Kidman. I just in this, whether it was what she was given. I mean, the dialogue's not
There's
great.
there's a definite kind of like, you know, along with the tonal shift, obviously, but you know, after Batman, like in Batman Returns, there's kind of Batman is realizing that he's a nut job as well, along with all the
Yeah.
villains, right?
Yeah.
And then they've like clearly gone, well, actually, let's like move away from that and have a hero and villains. But then also, in order to do that, they were also kind of thinking, oh, but actually, Batman's supposed to be troubled, you know, or so we'll try to give him a lightweight, kid-friendly psychotic disorder, like, you know. And so, like, Nicole Kidman's character's like, you know, this, oh, I'm the world's leading psychologist, and I've come
He's
up
a
with this
wacko.
sort of, yeah, he's a wacko.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like I feel so bad for like everyone just seems really uncomfortable or awkward or just angry to be there. And like Nicole Kidman must be like, what am I doing in this?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
she's like her only character trait is that she's got a boner for Batman and that's it. And like she also has come off the back of like Dead Calm and also the same year did To Die For, and she's genuinely really good roles.
It's the car, right? Chicks love the car.
What is it about the wrong kind of man? In grade school, it was guys with earrings. College, motorcycles, leather jackets. Now, black rubber.
Try fireman, less to take off.
I don't mind the work. Pity I can't see behind the mask.
We all wear masks.
My life's an open book. You read?
I don't blend in at a family picnic.
Like on the cusp of like hugeness, and just to be given this is just so sad.
Who got
Yeah,
shock,
as you said.
shock seeing Drew Barrymore pop out of nowhere?
Oh yeah.
What
Yes,
is
yeah.
what is Drew Barrymore doing in this film? Because
I found it really funny.
the Spice, her opposite number, is she was in Empire Records, right? So
That's
that's
Debbie Mazar.
yeah, and then so you know, known but not like a big star. But Drew Barrymore's like a major leaguer at this point. It's just like, yeah, I'd love to dress up in my underwear and faff about, basically.
Did anyone have fun watching it?
I did.
It's all relative, isn't it? Because like compared to some of the other films we've watched recently, I'd say yeah, lots of fun. But it was really. You've already said it. It was so boring. Like I don't know.
I think it's interesting to kind of like compare it to the superhero films of now, because the stakes just seem so low. Like Jim Carrey is infecting our brains with radio waves so that he can take them over. And then at one point, I think Tommy Lee Jones brings like TNT to the circus. And I just think, oh, come on, up your game, fellas. You know, Thanos is destroying half the planet.
Yeah, but
It's
no,
like-
but I think that's one of the things that not that particularly this film, but like that's where it's actually quite fun because it's just like save this person or that person, save a family, make the stakes quite identifiable. Whereas like how many blue lights like bursting into the sky have you seen in Marvel and just think, oh, this again, like they're
Yeah,
saving the
no,
world.
true. I just because I remember in the opening sequence, I've just found it very quaint that Batman would take all this time to save a security guard, and I was like,
He was
oh,
kind of a
that's
jerk.
nice. Yeah, yeah, he wasn't very grateful, was he?
It's very cartoon show, isn't it? That whole beginning bit is very much like Super Friends.
Comic
It's
booky,
kind of
some might
stuff,
say.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
Just like one of those cartoon books you used to read.
yeah. I was just gonna say, you know, like comic book versions, especially at that time, are telling like quite dark, morally ambivalent, quite advanced storytelling. Mid-90s would have been. I'm just trying to think what the Justice League was like then. It was probably...
Well, that was. I mean, I know when they set out for this film originally, they wanted to make it. Well, year one was the title they wanted, but the studio were like, no, we want we don't want a prequel, we want a sequel, which is a terrible idea. And obviously, yeah, it massively suffers from just studio interference where they're like you say, we want to sell Lunchbox and Batmobiles, and we don't really want them looking like two penises, so let's make it really kid friendly.
I did look it up, and there were 40 different Batman figures produced off the back of this movie alone.
See, I found that baffling when I was a kid, and I would go into a shop and I'd be like, hang on, why can I buy this bright orange Batman who's like in scuba gear, who isn't in the film, and yet I just can't get a classic black Batman.
Yeah.
I think also, like, from what I've read, the studio, Warner Brothers, were horrified by Batman Returns. And the fact that it's just quite a macabre. Oh, Batman Returns is a masterpiece. I love it. It's so good, but it's really grotesque and violent and
very
like
violent.
very, very. Yeah, it's one of Tim Burton's best.
There was a
films.
bit of a Happy Meals controversy as well, wasn't there, around it? Because there were McDonald's Happy Meals, and then basically that would encourage kids to see the movie, and then their parents would be like, "You've taken me to see." McDonald's has encouraged me to take my 8-year-old to see Michelle Pfeiffer in a dominatrix suit blowing people up, basically.
And, Danny DeVito spewing black vomit out of his mouth,
biting someone's nose off. Yeah,
so good. Oh, it's good.
That's the thing. Like this original source material, I was thinking about. Like, I'm not a huge comic book fan, but like when I was a relatively small kid, like graphic novels of Batman was the thing that I read quite a lot, and the best ones are the darkest ones. I always like drawn to those. So when Batman Returns came out, I was like, this is fucking great. This is exactly what I wanted and what I envisaged it to be. And then suddenly Batman Forever came out. It's like, no, this is this like the source material that was any good was not like this at all.
Yeah. The sad thing is that it was like financially about as successful as the previous two, so there was absolutely no reason for the studio to be like, let's go back to these cutting dark Tim Burton visions.
Weirdly, maybe it's affected Tim Burton's legacy a bit, or the way I view Tim Burton's work, because I feel like, since the first two Batman films are undoubtedly artistically visionary in many ways, and then he's kind of become known for a very specific kind of gothic, cartoony visual style since, when you get to like Alice in Wonderland and things. And I feel like in my brain this kind of melds into it and makes me think less of Tim Burton, weirdly, even though it's not his fault.
I don't know though. There's plenty of crap to be annoyed with Tim Burton about, though, isn't there? Like like Alice in Wonderland, top of the list. Like, if you're gonna think poorly of Tim, then
Tim Burton is collateral damage for Batman Forever. Who in this film believes that Chris O'Donnell needs to be adopted? The man is like 40 years old. And when he rocks up and he's like, "Oh, you've got to take him in," I'm like, "No, you don't. He owns a flat. He's got a fucking mortgage. Like, let him get on with it."
Middle manager of a sporting goods shop.
Yeah. When that conversation started happening, I was like, this is actually quite creepy. Like, why would he want to live here? I mean, I know why he'd want to live there, because he's living with a millionaire, but it just seemed all a bit weird.
And he's persuaded by a cheeseburger to stay.
Yeah.
Basically,
he's actually being driven by like a 15-year-old boy. He's just like a shell suit of a man.
I don't really know how old they're trying to play him off. There's one bit where he goes like Dick Grayson, college student. He's trying to convince him not to be Robin, which is trying to tell us that they're trying to convince you he's, 19, 20? I mean, there's no chance.
Yeah.
The only comparison to this is bloody Dawson's Creek. And so one of the things I was going to ask you about, which I've realised is much more terrible than I remember, and there's a lot of terrible things about this film, is the soundtrack, which apparently sold nearly as many copies as Prince's soundtrack for...
Are you talking Kiss from a Rose style soundtrack, or are you talking boing, those kind of...
Oh my God.
The orchestral score, which is springs being thrown out of windows, as far as I can work out.
You've got on the one hand, you've got U2 and Seal and all this, and then on the other hand, you've got like some of the worst boy noise.
I would say that just as a spoiler for the redeemable features, one of my only redeemable features is Seal "Kiss from a Rose." I think its legacy is that it gave the world that song. But yeah, no, the soundtrack was massive. Like,
It's just saying, like, they released this soundtrack, which has actually got loads of great people on it, but none of it was in the film. Which
no, I know
didn't
it's
even know
in the
was-
era of like soundtracks where all the music was like inspired by,
right, yeah.
not actually.
I'm just
from
looking
the
it
film
up, and there's
itself.
like, Mazzy Stars on here, Flaming
Nick
Lips,
Cave.
Nick Cave. There is a light. Yeah.
It's got some
And
real
then you
big
got
hits.
Massive Attack, and it's not bad.
I mean,
is it? I
the
mean, apart
Riddler's
from
listening to Flaming Lips, which is
Brandy,
shorthand for.
shorthand for Weirdy.
I did wonder if back in the day of like these Batman Forever type films, instead of getting like a sneak peek of your next Marvel film, you just got 10 really good songs, but no one listened to the whole credit, so no one ever heard.
No, it was a cultural thing. Like, it was, the soundtrack was like up there with maybe not Pretty Woman or Dirty Dancing, but like it was a really massive selling one. And I remember it was all over MTV and MTV2, which was right when we were spending all day watching MTV. So yeah, those songs are just drilled into our brains. That's probably one of my favorite U2 songs, which is, it's also the only U2 song I like, perhaps. But yeah. Do you want to talk about how your relationship with Batman has, as a superhero, has perhaps progressed and developed? Because I personally think that, and this is interesting because when Joe mentioned about how excited he was about Batman Returns, I was the same, and the disappointment by Batman Forever was the same. And it's interesting that since that point, I think I've gradually, and especially through the Christopher Nolan films, realized that I've totally grown out of Batman, and I just don't find him interesting at all as a superhero, and I think I find him very one note. But maybe that's unfair, and maybe that's maybe I'm missing something. I
think that's really fair, and I definitely used to love him and have sort of grown out of the sort of broody kind of thing I probably loved when I was a teenager. But like you say, the one note, the dead parents, and all of that kind of stuff, it's not that interesting anymore. But I do think the one thing that they tried to bring in, I feel like they tried to bring in a little bit with Batfleck, was the detective side of it, which is part of the stuff that I used to like, where I was listening to some people talk about Batman the other day on a podcast, and they were like, "What's his special power?" And the joke is his special power is he's really fucking rich. But like my always thing for him has been he's supposed to be like the world's best detective, and maybe going back to that would be a little bit more interesting than like he just likes to smash people. But
yeah, it really would be.
Well, I was talking at home the other day, and that was one of the things.
You don't fucking say.
No, sorry. I was talking to my partner at home the other day, and that was one of the things that came out. I was sort of saying a little while ago, just saying, well, he's the world's greatest detective. And people are like, that seems to totally get forgotten. And actually, like the best regarded Batman comic books are the ones where he is the world's greatest detective. Yeah. But the most fun ones are when he's in space with the Justice League. So take your pick,
That's just like Friday the 13th franchise.
I'm wondering if Joel Schumacher kind of preempted something that like the Batman films seem to be up against now. So like Tim Burton films laid the groundwork for Christopher Nolan in a way. The way I see it, it's like getting incredibly serious and getting darker and darker. And it's a bit like Joel Schumacher looked at the first two Batman films that came out and went, yeah, but the essence of Batman was that it's a man in a mask and it looks a bit silly, so let's roll with that a bit more and go back to the kind of camp TV show stuff. And I just feel like that's how I feel about it now in a way. It's like, love the Christopher Nolan films to a point, but there's nothing more to say about it. It's still a slightly preposterous concept, and we've gone over it a million times. I just wondered maybe Joel Schumacher was ahead of his time.
I do think that there is a place there for a camp Batman, and what the animated show does quite well, which obviously can do because it's a cartoon is be a little bit silly and very overly dramatic and stuff, but still have like great themes and stuff like that. And this obviously didn't have any of the great writing or themes to back it up. But I still personally quite enjoy like the campiness mixed with the broody darkness. Although talking about a man in a cow looking really silly, the bit where Nicole Kidman's like, I've found a man, and he realizes that she loves Bruce and not Batman, and he turns around and he smiles to the camera, and I think they were like, the mask makes it really hard to tell if you're smiling, so you really need to. And he looks psychotic. I swear to God.
Emote, Val, emote.
It's not like a little eye twinkly half smile. He's like, oh God. Yeah.
Catherine, you're giving Val Kilmer a lot of credit there that it wasn't him just smiling for the first time ever.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. I mean, I personally have run out of energy for any more Batmen of the same variety that we've seen for the last 15 years. So, just while we're talking about different versions of Batman and different, Val Kilmer's terrible smile, did anyone do their homework? I'm not going to ask everyone to rank every single one top to bottom, but if anyone has an opinion of best and worst, I'll just kick off. But I think Kevin Conroy tops both lists, and George Clooney bottoms both lists.
You might have to explain who Kevin Conroy is.
Sorry, the voice actor of the Batman animated series and several of the games, I think. Can anyone confirm or deny that?
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
And probably, to be fair, the animated series is the best version of Batman, not just the actor, but all round. But anyway, so the list that what I asked everyone to do was just tell me what their sort of ranking of actors playing Bruce Wayne and actors playing Batman separately, and see how they felt about them in all the Batmans we've seen. So, Christopher, you fancy chiming in?
You know what? I didn't separate my list. I'm sorry. I forgot that you asked that.
Yeah,
I apologize. I've just lumped them all together.
That's fine.
I have 8 Batmen. My least favorite. Well, my least favorite is Ben Affleck because I just can't bear him. Then Val Kilmer. And then I put George Clooney at number 6 because although I haven't seen him play Batman, I just like him more.
Seems all right, doesn't he? Seems like a nice guy.
He's a nice guy. He's a prankster, isn't he? He loves playing practical jokes.
The unfair thing about Batman and Robin,
he's a cheeky scam.
If you ever do come to watch it, is that you clearly should be a perfect Bruce Wayne at minimum, based on the fact that he sort of is Bruce Wayne, rich playboy type, and it's just shit. I mean, the film's shit, so it's probably not his fault. But anyway, carry on, continue.
Okay. Then Christian Bale. He's right in the middle of the list. I'm not bothered either way. Then Adam West. Then Kevin Conroy. And then at number 2, I have my, everyone's got their era of James Bond, and I guess my era of Batman is Michael Keaton. Naturally, that's the one I grew up with. And then number 1 is Will Arnett.
Yes,
the Lego Batman, who I think the reason why I chose him is because he's the perfect distillation of Batman. He's a narcissistic bro douchebag with too much money. That's my list. There you go. Anyone else?
I'd say for Bruce Wayne, I'm going to say Keaton. And the only reason I'm saying that is because there's a scene in the first Batman movie where they're in Vicky Vale's apartment and the Joker bursts in with the tea tray when he shoots him. And if you go and watch that scene, Keaton's body language, the way he moves, is like a super alert kind of, like a bird or a cat or something, like listening for danger, or even like a bat, kind of twitching his head, and it kind of makes you realise that, like he really plays up the Bruce Wayne is the mask aspect, and Batman's he's always Batman, and he puts on Bruce Wayne. and I think
Nice.
he does a super cool acting there.
That's yeah, that is a really good scene actually. Yeah.
Yeah, Batman. Batman, it's Will Arnett all the way as well, obviously. I mean, he's just...
Ted, you got any feelings on the matter?
For me, the ultimate Batman is Adam West. I mean, he even says it in an episode of Family Guy or something. You know, he was all West. He didn't have anything on under that suit. That was just all him. You know, and I've got a lot of respect for a man. You know, everyone else pumping themselves full of steroids or using the suit to kind of bulk themselves up. No, West just had, you know, some grey stockings, and you know they turned that camera sideways. And for my Bruce Wayne, it was Will Arnett as well, because I feel that in the Lego Batman, when he's got the I forgot the name of the song, but he has this where he talks about all his
Dark
inner
Earth.
demons and such.
Dark
Yeah, and
Earth.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was great. But I mean, we're yet to see what Patterson is going to do with it.
Mhm.
I feel that he could.
I love Robert Pattinson. I think I hope that he'll
Oh, I
actually
hope.
he'll ace it.
I quite liked Affleck as Bruce, not as Batman, but I quite like him as Bruce. But that's just me. Joe, any feelings on the matter?
I think Michael Keaton is definitely best Bruce Wayne. I quite like Christian Bale
Nice, yeah.
as Batman,
Oh,
which is controversial. I also quite like the conversation of like actors that have been linked as to Batman roles over the years. Like, not that I'm reading Wikipedia as we speak, of course. But,
How would we know?
there's like some of the names that have been linked to the role, like
Liberace.
Yeah,
He's up there.
really?
No.
So I just like the idea of Daniel Day-Lewis as Batman.
Oh
or,
God,
like,
can you imagine?
or Johnny Depp was apparently linked to it for Batman.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
whoa.
I could see William Baldwin was a choice for this, for Batman Forever, wouldn't he? Before they
He's
chose
the second worst Baldwin.
Yeah, but
But
which one's he in? What's
Yeah.
he in?
He's in that weird movie with the woman who was the daughter
I'll
in the
just look it
Cosby
up.
Show, where
I'll
they're
just look it up now, don't
searching for
worry.
water in the desert or something, and it's the future. You know the one.
What kind of fever dream is this?
well, he's in Backdraft.
Oh yes. No, that's Stephen Baldwin, isn't it?
Nah, not according to Wikipedia, that I'm definitely not on.
Oh,
great.
he was in Flatliners, so maybe that's the Schumacher
Yes.
connection.
Yes. William Baldwin is in Flatliners. Yes.
Ethan Hawke. That's quite a
Stephen Baldwin's in Usual Suspects.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, but hey, he was obviously offered the role like before Val Kilmer got it. He turned it down.
Oh, the Batman that could have been.
Realised by admitting that I like Ben Affleck, I've circled back to my previous admitting of my secret lust for Ben Affleck from previous podcasts, and I feel doubly embarrassed. My first secret thing is the last 10 minutes of the Riddler's costuming is amazing. I'm in love with it all. I really want his like spangly silver lycra onesie that he was wearing. It's amazing.
What about his haircut?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's probably basically what I look like this far into lockdown now, that haircut.
Do you know what? Like, people give Christian Bale like a lot of props for his, you know, weight gain and loss and physicality for certain roles, right? But no one ever says, like, you imagine the diet Jim Carrey was on to get into that leotard at the end of this movie.
Exactly. And the smoking jacket as well, like not smoking.
Yeah.
Solid gold. And just sort of award for worst scene in any film ever is Chris O'Donnell hanging his washing out.
Oh my god. What? Because that is the only real display of like his possible being a superhero prowess.
Other than when he discovers the Batcave, which I think they could have just left that scene in and lost the laundry scene. And I read through 20 or 30 cut scenes from this film that they cut, and they did not cut Chris O'Donnell ninja laundry scene, which is pretty
Do you think there's anyone that saw that film in much the same way that when Pitch Perfect came out, everyone like saw oh my god, Anna
The
Kendrick.
Cups, Anna Kendrick, yeah.
And it just became like the biggest sort of meme ever, and everyone decided to copy it. Do you think anyone saw Chris O'Donnell drying his laundry in that way and thought, "Oh, that's pretty good. I'm going to spend some time trying to do that too."
It's not only is it like a terrible scene and really stupid and pointless and ridiculous, unnecessary, but he hasn't even done a good job of hanging his laundry out. It's the worst.
Because it's dry already.
It's like crumpled up.
Why is he hanging the laundry? For starter, I mean, he's a guest in a billionaire's mansion. Like, what is he
He's doing his
doing?
own laundry. Do you know what would be? Do you know what would be really wonderful is if for the rest of the film, all of the clothes he wore was sort of like half wrinkled and then half damp.
It did make me think that, like, fucking Alfred gets like a tough gig, man, because there aren't any other people helping out in that house. There's no cooks, there's no laundry people, there's no one. He's doing absolutely every single fucking job.
Where's the bat staff?
Yeah, exactly.
Where's the
Just
bat
the vacuuming alone must take hours a day.
Imagine dusting all those chandeliers. Jesus.
And then once you've done a full day's cleaning, you're like, "Oh, I forgot the fucking cave."
Yeah.
The entire underground layer that I haven't even swept.
You go down there, you're like, you haven't swept down here for ages. This place is full of bats, honestly.
It's full of guano.
Does anyone have any other things they want to share with me about this this film before we wrap up?
No, I've got just again just a couple of stray thoughts. The screwball dialogue that's trying desperately to be clever and quick and witty is just full of things like when Val Kilmer says to Nicole Kidman, "You're naive but insightful," which is just the stupidest fucking line anyone's ever delivered.
I was really shocked when Jim Carrey's like, "Spank me," and I was like, "Fucking hell!" Like they really worked hard to make this like a kids' film, and then just shut down.
Other than that, I was quite, I like this in films when they show sort of news footage or CCTV footage, which they haven't bothered to make look like that, and they've just used like proper filmed footage. So there's the bit it's like CNN footage of the courtroom when Two-Face gets scarred, and it's just like this really horrible, gory like scene where he turns to the camera in a perfectly kind of Dutch angled shot, and blood pours through the folder, and that's just on primetime CNN. I thought that was ridiculous. And my other least favorite thing about it is the post-production added like mugging and gurning noises that Two-Face is making, just the sort of really comic book like it's just vile. But yeah, I think that's it from me. Anyone else?
Did in Nicole Kidman's office when Val Kilmer's looking at the picture frame of the Rorschach blot, that's so obviously a bat. Like when he's like, "Oh, it's a bat," she's like, "No, it's not." I'm like, "Yes, it fucking is." Like that is a bat.
I watched this film 3 or 4 times in preparation, and that Rorschach blot is definitely a large pair of breasts with spiders crawling all over them.
But yeah, that was just my observation.
Anyone else?
I would just say I don't really understand how or why Joel Schumacher came up with this, because he did Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, right? But either side of that, he did Falling Down and 8mm. And it's like, and his other stuff's like, I mean, he did like The Lost Boys, didn't he, back in the day? But you know, it's like Tigerland and what's Phone Booth with where he gets. So it's quite sort of taut, you know, short scene thrillers or kind of, you know, commentaries on the futility of violence and all this kind of stuff. And it's like he's
a versatile director.
Well, his films tend to be reasonably dark and adult in the most mainstream possible
Yeah.
way. And then halfway through, he's just like, oh yeah, I'll just come up with these like crazy camp, ridiculous Batman movies that it's
I
like.
won't bother directing them properly. I'll just scream through a megaphone. It's a comic. It doesn't matter.
It does just reek of like studio interference. I think a lot of it you can lay at that door. I think they cut a lot of the more grown up violent stuff, definitely.
Yeah.
And one other thing that I so recently, whether I'm just getting really old or not, but I have a habit now of watching almost everything with the subtitles on because I just can't hear what anyone's saying at any point. And
Same.
yeah, the bit where Drew Barrymore and Spice, I can't remember the actress name, are like offering Two-Face these two different meals. She's like all this like champagne and blah blah blah. The subtitles on, I realise that she offers him the Spice offers him raw donkey.
Oh.
Raw donkey
What?
meat.
Yeah, with a
I've never
glass of
noticed-
engine oil or something.
Yeah, I've never noticed before. I was like, what? How did that slip in there? Like, what the fuck? Yeah, anyway.
Because that's what bad people like to eat.
Raw
They
donkey.
like to eat bad things that are inedible. Oh god, Joe, have you got anything you'd like to add?
Are we doing redeeming features separately, or
We now roll into redeemable features if you'd like to start.
oh god, it's.
How do I start?
I quite like the Warner Brothers logo morphing into the Bat logo at the beginning. I think that's the first time it appears. I don't think that appears in the other films.
Nice.
That's cool.
Yep.
What else?
Marketing.
The riddles are Ridley.
Could you say that again? Like three times as fast as you
Now
can.
listen very carefully. Apart from that, I mean, there's. Oh, no, I'm sorry. There's not much else really.
That's fine. That's two things.
Yeah.
That's double.
Pretty small things, but yeah, I like it.
Ted?
I do like Joel Schumacher's use of the. I mean, he overuses it, but he knows how to formulate a Dutch tilt. I think that when he's composing them, they're quite nice. They are and I feel that the whole kind of feeling and the disjointedness of that with the harsh lighting and stuff. That he's got a style, and I got behind it eventually. I'll put it that way.
You were convinced.
Joel will be very pleased to hear that when he listens to this.
Yep, I hope so.
Matt, redeemable feature.
It's so like the worst I could say for this movie is like it's sort of boring and a bit meh, and then which is high praise indeed compared to some of the other movies we've had a look at. Like at least it's not like rampantly racist all the way through or something.
Someone's getting sexually abused in this film, or
Yeah.
sexually
The
assaulted.
best I could say for it is it looks expensive. I'm not sure it looks good exactly, but it looks like you can see the money and you can see the design work, and
That's great.
there's a lot of stuff that went. There's a lot of talented people working very hard in here, but
That's sort of like
They're-
the kind of compliment a disappointed mum would make. That's nice. You look like you spent a lot of money on that.
the set designers look like they're working for Hasbro rather than Warner Bros. So it's it looks great. Is a bit shit, let's be honest. But then again, I've watched a lot of totally shit movies in my life, and this isn't the shittest.
The art department had to work very hard because everyone is at the scenery buffet in this thing. Jim Carrey gets there first, chews down most of it, and then everyone else has to join in. So they've got to keep making
more and more scenery.
yeah.
Catherine, what's your favourite thing about the film?
That's actually quite a lot of things. I don't know if I know my favourite thing, but I do enjoy the look of it. I think it's got a nice mix of dark Batman and camp Batman, which I think is what I how I fondly remember it. Although it's much worse than I remember, but that's the fondness is still there that I remember a bit, and I kind of enjoy the weird homoerotic rubber suits everywhere. I think it's really sort of takes the piss out of Batman in the right way. I hope that's what they were going for, as opposed to just coming up with really bad shots. But yeah, no, yeah, I think it can be fun, or it should be fun. It isn't as fun as I remember, but it has moments.
I feel like we've definitely talked more positively about this one than we have other ones, and like a lot of the things we've mentioned are genuine high points, like Jim Carrey being just great Jim Carrey, and the art direction and the soundtrack, and my favorite bit, and this is a Val Kilmer moment, and it's when
Is
Tommy
it
Lee
the film
Jones
Top Secret?
it's no, it's the film Ghost in the Darkness.
Yeah.
It's the bit where they're in the circus tent, and Tommy Lee Jones says he'll blow up. Sorry, Tommy Lee Jones. Two-Face says he'll blow up the circus, and if I don't know, find out who Batman is, and Val Kilmer very nobly stands up and screams, "I'm Batman! I'm Batman! I'm Batman!" just without even a thought. It's really selfless, and although he's drowned out by everyone, that's his first, instinct is just to save those people, even though it means revealing his identity. And actually, that was just a really nice, kind of sweet, touching, noble moment.
I think we didn't talk about it at all. Actually, the whole circus bit, I still like that bit as a
set piece wise. I think it's the high point of the film. Definitely.
yeah. It's like as a what's the word, backstory and stuff. I mean, shame about it being, but one of the best things about that circus scene is you could barely hear Chris O'Donnell talk throughout the entire thing, so he comes across really, really well. And
There's
silent.
that's every Batman actor gets a bit where they get to say, "I'm Batman," and that's like how they define the character, isn't it? It's like in the original Batman film, in the '89 Batman film, he kind of says it at the beginning on the rooftop, and then Bale sort of yells it through a distorted megaphone at someone. And I feel like, that's Val Kilmer's moment, and it's overshadowed by the crowd. And poor Val.
That's a good metaphor. That is, isn't it? Okay, seeing as most of our spare time is spent doing quizzes via Zoom, hey, let's do a quiz via Zoom. I'm going to ask 3 questions related to Batman Forever, or the Batman franchise as a whole. And what I'd like you to do is whoever says their name first can get a chance to answer the question, and if they get it right, they get a free can of bat shark repellent. So the first question is, which 2 characters in Batman Forever are the only 2 characters to be played by the same actor in the first 2 Tim Burton films?
So that would be Alfred then, Michael Goff.
Yep. And
Commissioner
sorry, there's
Gordon.
another one.
Commissioner Gordon.
yeah, you, Matt and Catherine, get to share one whole can of bat shark.
Yes. Fuck those
Okay,
sharks.
second. Well, only half of them. What's the highest grossing Batman film of all time?
To Batman Forever.
I'm gonna say
Dark Knight?
No, I think it's the
Yeah, nope, it's not The Dark Knight.
the last then Rises.
Yeah, Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah.
$1.08 billion,
Really?
which is impressive.
Whoa.
Like one of the few sort of franchises where they just kept making money after, the box office got bigger and bigger. Batman Begins only made $374 million.
What did Batman
So
make?
Batman, the original, I can tell you in just one click of this Wikipedia link I've got here. You mean the 1989 one?
Yeah. It was all merchandise though, right? Those t-shirts were everywhere. That was
Yeah, but
The lunch boxes again. Always with the lunch boxes.
lunchboxing is a term, a movie-making term now that we should use.
So the original Batman 1989 made 411 million and was the highest grossing film of the initial 4 filmed. In fact, they just kept losing money. Batman 411, Batman Forever 336. Batman Returns actually made less than Batman Forever, and then Batman and Robin made the least, 238. Oh wow, sorry, just a bonus one. Do you know how much Joker made at the box office?
14 quid.
Yeah, $1.074 billion.
Wow.
Yeah.
quite extraordinary. Anyway, sorry, I'm dragging this on needlessly. Final question. Harvey Dent, or Two-Face, as he's known in Batman Forever, was originally played by who in the previous 2 Batman films?
Oh, Lando Calrissian.
No.
Billy D. Williams.
The actor. Yeah. Who said that? Who said Billy D. Williams?
Oh, me.
No, you can't.
Oh yeah, it's Joe. I did.
So you get your very own can of bat shark repellent for your own
Yes.
shark.
Lando Calrissian. Oh, well, never mind.
I know. I wanted the actor. Cruelly cast out of the role by Tommy Lee Jones, who did a much worse job in it than. Oh, actually, but Billy D. Williams did get to reprise the role in the Lego Batman movie, so that's nice.
Oh, that's nice.
Right, let's roll into marks out of 10. Let's start with Matt. What are you going to give it out of 10?
I'm going to give it an exact 5 because it's perfectly fine. It's not offensively terrible. It has its as an exercise in filmmaking, it's competent.
Again, it's like my mum is giving me compliments about something she's doing.
Well, your mum's pretty tough. Like, no wonder you turned out the way you did.
You haven't seen the Batman film I made.
It's not awful. It's not offensive, or it's just a bit. It's an extended ad for toys and games. It hasn't got any heft and emotional.
But no one was using any Sony Vaio
not like the Transformers
phones or laptops like they are in loads of the Marvel.
Yeah, I'm neither positive or negative about it. I think 5 out of 10 is fine.
Joe, marks out of 10, please.
I'm sort of thinking along the same lines. I might push it up to a 6. Yeah, I think I'm going to go with a 6 because I think that's what I gave a previous film on this series, which feels about right in terms of how I enjoyed it and how I rate it as as a cinematic experience. 6 out of 10.
Very good. Ted?
I think I'm going to agree with Joe and give it a 6 because I remember I gave Pirates a 6 as well, and I think I enjoyed this film as much as that.
It's because this was half the year.
No, I'm trying to think now. So it's really difficult because this whole exercise we end up benchmarking these films against one another. When there is no way I would give Batman Forever a 6 because that's too high a score. But also, I gave Pirates of the Caribbean 5, and did I enjoy this more than Pirates of the Caribbean? I don't think I did.
Oh,
but which one would I rather sit through again? Probably this one again because Pirates of the Caribbean is interminable. So I'm going to give it a 6 too. Catherine, marks out of 10.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, considering the fact that it's about an hour shorter than Pirates of the Caribbean, it already deserves another point. So I kind of want to give it a little bit more than everyone else because I feel like I enjoyed it more than everyone else purely on nostalgia. But I don't think I can, in good conscience, give Batman Forever a 7 out of 10.
Wow.
So I think it's a 6 from me too.
Wow, that's incredible. Right, now let me just use my brain, inverted commas, to work this out, the average here. Oh, look at that. We have a new leader on the board. Batman Forever has an average score of 5.8, which is 0.2 more than Pirates of the Caribbean, the previous best film us as a group has watched.
And is it still 1 billion points more than Mallrats?
Yeah. 1 billion and 5.8 points more than Mallrats. So it's looking pretty good, guys. Finally, the only item on the agenda left is to reveal who will be picking the next film that we're watching and what that film will be. Joachim, it's your turn.
Hello. So The film I have chosen is from 1986. I think it's an era that we've inevitably focused on because we were children in the 80s, apart from Catherine, probably. Were you a child in the 80s, Catherine?
I mean,
When were
I
you
was
born?
alive in the 80s.
Okay, fine.
I wasn't born yet.
I wasn't
Oh, Ted.
watching any films, that's for sure.
But I think what's quite interesting about the 80s is that at best it's a period of where Hollywood is particularly was culturally insensitive, and at worst was just deeply culturally offensive.
Yeah.
And this film that I've chosen, I think it's going to explore that in great detail.
Oh no!
This film
Going back to the dark side.
This shit, man.
Yeah. The tagline of the film is "Life is not a malfunction," which makes it sound a bit like a pro-life.
Yes.
But and it's also got a link to quite a strong link to a film that we've also already reviewed on this series, which stars Steve Guttenberg. It is Short Circuit.
Oh, yes.
Wonderful. Johnny Five is alive and will continue to haunt our lives next week on the podcast. That made no sense whatsoever. It sort of had the cadence of like an outro, but it didn't really have it at all. So you know what? When we re-record the ends of all of these episodes, inevitably I'll just do it again for that. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining me this week. Thank you to everyone out there for listening. We really appreciate it. I've been Christopher Ratcliffe. Thank you so much to Joachim Farncombe, to Ted Wilkes, to Matt Owen, and of course to Catherine Thompson for bringing Batman Forever back into our lives. We will see you next time on Methods Unsound Presents Moving On.